We are here live at Pizza Man Pub here this week. It's called Off the Rails with Al, and Al Romano, somebody who has won a national championship and became a CNY native and a national champion with the Pitt Panthers and the likes of Tony Dorsett and company. Here with us today. We've done the show before, and we'll do it off and on here throughout the summer and try to have you here as often as we can. Off the Rails with Al, and you'll find out why, because we talk about stuff and then usually go well off of, out of way.
We have children here, so.
Yeah, you're going to be nicer today?
I'll behave.
Okay, he'll behave today. So, Al Romano here with us, and of course myself, Dan Tortora, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, bringing you and presenting Off the Rails with Al at Pizza Man Pub, 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York. There's a lot of things that I wanted to get to, really three big topics, and with you being a college football alum, you know, the topics of the day, transferring, which has essentially become college football, college athletics free agency, I should say, with any sport, as well as name, image, and likeness, better known as NIL, which is going through a bunch of votes and different things going on currently, and then recruiting in general, and, you know, when to listen, when to believe something, when not to. So there's a lot of things affecting kids today, and you went through it way back without name, image, and likeness, as well as without having to deal with transferring free agency, so to speak. So how strange does college athletics look to you now?
Quite strange. It's, transferring, we wouldn't even think about it.
Yeah.
Not that we could, but I understood after I had to inquire.
Yeah.
We could have.
Yeah.
But the ruling now is a little bit bizarre compared to, we could transfer at any time, but the major rule is you would have to, in the Division I level, you would have to sit out a year. And that's still an act. They still do that way.
Yeah, and what they've essentially done with Corona is they gave everyone an extra year of eligibility, whether or not you're a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior, and there's no restriction of having to sit out, and there's no restriction inter-league as well, where they used to make you sit out 2 years, and they don't do that anymore. So if you left Syracuse and went to Pittsburgh, you might have to wait 2 years to play. Now there's no restriction, at least for this year. And there's no restriction in general. If you go, you don't have to sit out a year. So if you go from Alabama to Ohio State, you go from, Miami to Syracuse, you can play right away. So what are your thoughts on them having no restriction whatsoever, that if I was playing for Florida and decided to transfer to Georgia, and you decided to transfer from Nebraska to Pitt, we could play immediately as if we were on the team last year? What are your thoughts on that?
No, I think that the player, the athlete, should have some consequences.
Okay.
Granted, it's not a perfect system. Because you're meeting a coach, you're talking to maybe other alumni from the university, and you're getting a feel. And of course, you visit the town, and that's kind of what sold me on Pittsburgh. But I really don't. I really believe in having some consequences as far as if you wanted to transfer. The player needs some protection.
Yeah.
But think about it. We're 17, 18 years old, and we're making a big decision at that time of our life.
Yeah.
So there should be some. Like, for example, I firmly believe that if a coach recruited me and I came in and he leaves in his first year, or at least the first year that I am there, for any reason, I should have the right to, without that year of loss, to go anywhere I want. In conference, out of conference, anywhere.
Yeah.
Because I committed to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's a tough question, and I don't think there's ever going to be one answer.
Well, no, and I think the thing is, because coaches don't have to abide by anything, that it's left the players feeling weak in this situation, feeling like they have no voice, that they have no, you go to UCF and Scott Frost is there, he leaves for Nebraska, and you wanted to play for Scott Frost, you didn't want to play for Josh Heupel. So what do? Gus Malzahn gets let go in Auburn. He goes over to UCF, and you committed to Auburn because you liked what Gus sold to you. You liked his staff. Because it's not just the head coach. A lot of times they take their staff with them, or at least a portion of the staff. when Doug Marone left Syracuse, he took all but Scott Schaefer and Tim Doust and tried to take Tim Doust. So, he gutted everybody and took a double-digit number of coaches. So I think in that sense of it, if a coach leaves, then a player should have no restriction on where they go, and they shouldn't have to sit out a year, in my opinion.
I agree wholeheartedly. And you're right. The coaches can do anything they want.
Yep.
Even under, these ridiculous well, maybe not ridiculous. I think they're worth their money, but the kind of money that they're making is I think they should have some recourse as well.
Yeah, and the coaches, there was one year that I saw, it was just in the American Athletic Conference. It was 3 schools in the American Athletic. All of their coaches signed an extension, every single one of them, for, let's say, 3 years, 4 years. And so I'm at this thing in Rhode Island, Newport, Rhode Island, talking to these coaches, and by December, everybody had signed an extension with their school. Every single one of those 3 coaches in the American were on a different team in the new year. So they weren't even there 3 months, 4 months into the contract. They were gone already. So they agreed, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're going to be here this season. We're going to be here till 2020, 2021 at the time, 2023. And they were all gone really before the sun set on the year.
Well, that's the way they can look out for themselves. They have to answer to no one.
Yeah.
If for example, when I was apprehensive going to Pittsburgh in the beginning because I had always hoped to play in SU.
Yeah.
Well, SU, the year that I would have come in, the coach was leaving.
Yeah.
And they were bringing in Mahoney, I think it was, right after Schwartzwalder.
Frank Maloney, yeah.
Yeah, Frank Maloney.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, that would have been a disaster if I changed my mind at that time. But that could have happened.
Yeah.
Because I was torn. Who wouldn't want to play for their hometown? But again, and we talked about this before, they really didn't feel, I felt I was being given a token instead of being wanted and appreciated.
Yeah.
I truly did. So I chose Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and if you were at Pittsburgh and you go back, to when you played, if you were at Pittsburgh and your coaching staff decided to leave, do you feel that you, like what we're talking about right now, would it be hard to keep you in Pittsburgh?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Johnny Majors and Jackie Sherrill, I was sold. The first time they brought us into a hotel,
Yeah.
they individually interview you.
Yeah.
And in a manner of speaking, they just want to know about you, your family, and all that. And right then and there, I'm kind of on the edge of my seat. I'm thinking, I want to hit something in this room here because they got me motivated, and that's exactly how I felt all 4 years.
So, when we look at that on that side of things, does the NCAA, we'll talk about a little bit more of what they've done and with coronavirus and if they could ever go back from it, but in the coaching side, should there be something written in NCAA bylaws that states you are committed to this school if your coach decides to leave at any given time during your 4 to 5 years that you're supposed to be at the school, you're able to transfer without having to sit out a year? Should that be written in to tell players, hey, if a coach leaves, you have it, or do those players all have to sign? Do they all have to ask for a waiver individually?
It would be individual.
Okay.
And it'll never happen. It'll never happen. Think of what it would do to a program for the next coach to come in, to have possibly an illegal amount of players.
Yeah.
As you know, Division I, you have to have a minimum of, I think it's 60 or so, or if it's not, it could be even more. I don't remember the number.
Yeah.
But
So
think about it. If they delete it to down to 40 or 50.
right, they could gut the team.
So you got a Division I school they can't play.
Yeah.
So that'll never happen.
But what we have right now with college football free agency, college athletic free agency, you can do it in basketball, you can do it in any sport, that you can leave without an interleague penalty of 2 years or any penalty whatsoever, and you can leave in general and go anywhere in the country without having to sit out. So essentially, that can happen now. If Dino Babers, let's say this year, after going 1-10, if 40 of the guys said, we don't want to play here anymore, then on his roster, he could lose 40 players. And how are you going to make up 40 players when you're trying to recruit maybe somewhere between 15 to 20, and then you got to recruit more? So what we're looking at right now is, like you said, they'll never let a rule go across that says, okay, if a coach leaves, then you can transfer without having to sit out. But with college football free agency right now, college athletic free agency right now, any amount of number of players could leave, and Syracuse could have had, anybody could have had 40 guys, 30 guys, 20 guys, 15, 60 guys say, I don't want to be here anymore.
You're right. It could have happened. I don't think. I mean, I don't think that under certain, you know, in these rules in Division I, they're specific to a sport. And just like you said, basketball is different than football.
Yeah.
And they're more way wide open than the football is. You're more committed in that program than you are, I think, the others. But just like I said, think about it. Let's say if we had Saban.
Yeah.
I want to go to Syracuse. And all these players pulled that, you know, I want out of here because Babers left.
Yeah.
They came there to play for Babers. I mean, you could bring it in. First of all, he wouldn't come here. Look what just happened.
Yeah.
And he's not going to put his name on that. Oh, so
it's dangerous. And the thing is, if they're doing this in a COVID year, saying, hey, listen, everybody gets a free year, plus you can all transfer without having to sit out a year, plus there's no interleague transfer restrictions. So if you go from an ACC team to an ACC team or an American team to an American or Pac-12 to Pac-12, there's no restrictions. Doing that this year, saying, hey, we're going to throw the college athletes a bone, not just in football, but in any sport, can you ever go back from that? If you and I are playing football right now, and we can transfer anywhere and not have to sit out, and then they say, okay, well, after this year, we're not going to allow it to anybody else, can you go back? I mean, it's kind of like once the door is open, it's swung open.
You know, I believe truly there is a rule there. I don't think they can. I think once they pull the trigger, they're done. They're out of that. I think. I could be wrong on that.
But once they have this rule where there's no restriction to stay out a year, how can they tell a college athlete next year that they have to sit out a year?
Yeah,
that's where it gets dicey. That's what I'm getting at.
Oh man, I tell you, we all better hope that nothing like that happens, because it would, like you said, Alabama could fold.
Right.
Ohio State, any of the big schools.
Right. It essentially becomes free agency. We're looking at college athletics, like pro sports, having ultimate free agency every single year. You're on a one-year deal, basically, and all of your coaches have to recruit you every year. So think about that. Think about your coaching staff having to recruit Al Romano to come in and then recruit Al Romano for the next 4 years every single year, hoping that you don't leave. That's what we're looking at right now.
It is unfortunate, but that's why I think that I think the one time, in other words, you want to transfer because of whatever all rules they set down. But after that, you would have to leave that university completely, and they would sit out a year, and then. So
you'd like to see them go back to after this year that they have to at least sit out a year?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think the athlete. I think he needs to, own up to what his decision he made, and if he made a bad decision.
Yeah. I think the thing that we're coming down to, though, is knowing that the NCAA has opened up this door. I don't know if they could shut it. They might get sued. They might have people say, hey, listen, you gave this opportunity and everybody else can't take it back now. And it's really the NCAA is at the mercy of the players at this point. They've gotten away with being a non, they have been for such a long time that, they've paraded around as like, oh, we don't make money. This is one of those places where, you don't have to worry about us, and we're essentially, this place for all these college athletes, and it's all about the athletes, but they're making billions and billions of dollars off of these athletes, which puts us in a situation where if now you're starting to give the athletes some power, I don't know if they want to give it back, and the NCAA may not have grounds to take it back, knowing that the players are already frustrated, they're already upset. So to give them a free year and say, hey, go wherever you want, no restrictions. Next year we're going to change it back. I don't know if they could get away with it, because giving up the power to the players, I don't know if the players are going to give it back, since the NCAA has had it for so long.
They're not going to. The players aren't going to. There's no way they're going to give it back. They have opened up the Pandora box.
Yeah.
And for good reason, though. The NCAA for years was ludicrous with some of their rulings. I mean, I don't know how they went about it, if there was a specific board or whatever, whatever way they did it.
The Committee on Infractions.
Right, very poorly. Like, when recruiting violations and that sort of thing. They give some schools the death penalty, which they call the death penalty. Yeah. And other schools, they say, okay, we're going to restrict you. You're going to do 5 less scholarships.
Right.
Yeah, big deal. 5 less scholarships there. A school like Alabama doesn't mean anything.
Right. And what Penn State had to pay $60 million to give up a year of their football earnings, which was like $60 million, which was only football. And they had really no issue. After everything with Sandusky, they had no issue recruiting. I mean, I talked to kids that got offers from Penn State and Syracuse was way off in the distance, and Penn State was a finalist, or they went to Penn State. It's certain schools that had to pay a penalty really didn't have to pay anything. Boeheim loses 101 wins, but they keep his losses, which make no sense. And then
there you go. That was asinine.
Yeah, they're like, none of these games existed, but the losses existed, but the wins don't. So I said he'll be the only coach to get 1,000 wins twice. The only one in the history of anything. And then you look at North Carolina, Roy Williams and all that, and they got off scot-free. Nothing happened to them. They were brought up on allegations with the football program, the basketball program, falsifying degrees, having people finish with a business degree when they just took yoga classes. And, this was carried on HBO years ago. Then the NCAA, years later, finally looks at it, and they decide that there's nothing. And then I got guys telling me that they were making money with stock in the Kentucky Derby when they were playing for Kentucky in the 70s, and they've never been brought up on charges. So Kentucky, nothing. North Carolina, nothing. St. Bonaventure has someone with a welding certificate instead of an associate's degree. They're barred from the tournament. UConn wins a national championship while being investigated and didn't have to give it up, and Syracuse loses 101 wins. None of it makes sense, which is why the NCAA they need to have a ruling body that checks their balance and watches them. And I said this, we're almost coming up on the 5 years. I said a while back on my show, maybe 3 to 4 years ago, I said 5 to 10 years from now, the NCAA, if they continue down the road of doing what they're doing and not treating everybody equally, and if you break Rule 1 in your school A, then you get this punishment. If you break Rule 1 in your school B, you get no punishment. I said the NCAA will not exist the way that we know it, if they exist at all, 5 to 10 years from now, if they continue down this path. And we're about to that 4th year of when I said that, and look at it now. You got an autonomy group that literally, by definition, functions on their own within the NCAA that can break away at any time. Plus, you have all of this school gets in trouble, this one doesn't.
They have no one to answer to.
Right. So you got name, image, and likeness coming up. You got a College Athletics Free Agency. You have the Pac-12, the Big 12, the Big 10, the ACC, and the SEC autonomous and can break away at any time. And you're not treating every school equally when they break the same rule. How does the NCAA survive this?
I agree with you. It's inevitable what's going to happen here. What they're going to end up doing is, I don't know if dissolving is the proper word, but dissolving the institution, what we know as the NCAA now, and put in, fix something that's, like you said, it's regimented. School A gets this, and so on.
The NCAA has been a non-for-profit. Non-for-profit.
So then where does the $60 million go that Penn State had to pay?
Right.
And Boeheim, what did he have to pay for the wins?
Yeah. You look back on this and say a non-for-profit organization that makes billions of dollars potentially every single year. How many non-profits are billion-dollar industries that you know of?
I'd like to know what those guys make.
And I want to know what this non-for-profit is. Where's the money going?
Yeah, but have you ever heard of any name on that board that makes these decisions? the NCAA as far as?
Well, just the president, Mark Emmert, who said this about college football. Well, college football was all making their own rules on what to do with coronavirus. He came out and said, I have no jurisdiction. I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I have no jurisdiction in college football. I can't. He said, I can't make decisions. So I said, you're essentially the president of nothing.
Right.
He admitted that he takes a paycheck but has no control over his employees. So how are you the boss? He literally quoted himself saying, I am the boss of nothing. I can make no decisions. So why are you still there?
Sounds political to me.
So I just don't understand how any of this exists today when you have a president that cannot make decisions for college football. The College Football Playoff Committee makes decisions on those teams. The NCAA does not. So all of these things are happening within the NCAA. So basically, the NCAA has no control over anything, but they can punish you.
Yeah.
So you know what I would do if they punished me and I played for Syracuse and I'm part of the ACC, which is part of the autonomy group? I'd play the next game. What are you going to do?
Yeah, really.
How are you going to stop me? Because I'm autonomous. So why do I have to pay the fine if I'm a self-governing body?
Yeah.
And if I'm in the college football playoff, why do I have to? I mean, if I'm in college football and Mark Emmert, the president of the NCAA, has said that he has no jurisdiction, then why can't I just do whatever I want? Why can't I create my own bowl game? Why can't I have my own tournament the way that I want to have the tournament? You know, I mean, I just don't understand how the NCAA to this day in 2021 still exists when they have no governance, they don't treat people the same, players are going to start getting paid, and there's free agency. It's the Wild Wild West.
I'm silent because there's no answer.
I mean, did you ever think that it was going to get to this?
No, this is almost worse. This is almost worse than the screw-up decisions that they've made through the last 40 or 50 years. This is ridiculous. You know what? It's going to come to a head where something will be done.
Yeah.
And then these people who are... I'd love to know what these guys make and where this money goes.
Yeah.
And how many people on this board?
Well, there's a bunch of different committees, so
Right.
it depends. It's contingent on the committee on infractions has a group, the selection committee has a group, so they have groups within it, and then there's a working group that's trying to decide the college football playoff expansion, which only had a few people.
So who do these groups report to?
The president, Mark Emmert, who is the president of nothing.
It's nothing. Okay. Now, how many groups would you say there are, and how many in each group?
So, I mean, depending on what committee you're a part of, it could be a few commissioners, it could be a few representatives. The college football playoff working group only had, I think, four different people, 4 or 5 people. So it's not a lot, but when you look at the front office, I mean, obviously Mark Emmert with his staff of the NCAA, he's got a bunch of people underneath him. But I'm trying to figure this out and say to myself, if you're a $1 billion industry, how much does Mark make? And beyond Mark, how much does his group make? How much does his secretary make? How much does the associates underneath that make? How much does the head of the college football playoff committee, how much does that chair make? As well as the working group, how much is the working group making? Because there's no way that billions of dollars, and when you say non-for-profit, I'm thinking you're giving money to the homeless. I'm thinking you're giving money to, women who, are single mothers that had to flee their homes that are trying to find a life for their child. I'm not thinking of sports. So when you say non-for-profit, I'm thinking Ronald McDonald House. I'm not thinking NCAA. So how this entire group was made to exist this way in, the way that things are, I don't understand it. I mean, I guess there needs to be I don't guess there needs to be a check and balance, because when the NCAA can decide whatever they want, if you're Kentucky and you're John Calipari and you're Mark Emmert, and I'm just saying this, this is hypothetical. But if I'm John Calipari and you're Mark Emmert and we're friends and I go, hey, I'll pad your pocket a little bit and we'll go golfing and I'm good, right? And that's fine. And then Jim Boeheim comes up to you and Mark doesn't like Jim and he goes, Jim, don't even talk to me. I don't like your attitude. I mean, how does any of this exist right now? And if I'm the group of 5 in football, in Division 1A FBS, there's the Power 5, which is a term by the media. And there's the group of 5, which is a term by the media. I think there's a Power 6, and I've argued the American in that a bunch of times, which would leave a group of 4. But if you're part of the group of 5, you never have a shot at the college football playoff, the way it is now with 4 teams. You never have an opportunity to really do anything. So why even be Division I? And why do you have to listen to the NCAA if you're never going to get an open opportunity at any type of fairness? So why don't you break away? How do all of these things exist, and how have they existed this long without everybody just running off to their own corner and saying, screw the NCAA, I'm done?
Do these universities have contracts with the NCAA?
The NCAA is their governing body, so
Yeah, but
it's just been set up that these conferences come within it. So for football, it's Division 1A and Division 1AA, Division 2, Division 3, and then in other sports, it's Division 1, 2, and 3, and they're all within the NCAA. But here's the kicker. NCAA, if you're an athlete in the NCAA Division 1 and 2, you can get a scholarship. Free ride to school, right? So you get a free ride Division 1, Division 2.
But that's the school
Right.
footing that.
But underneath the NCAA, the ruling is if you're Division 1, Division 2, you can get a free ride. If you're D3, you have to abide by all the same rules of the NCAA, but you don't get a scholarship. So why is D3, why don't they have the same? Because if name, image, and likeness goes through, Division 1, 2, and 3 athletes can make money on their name, image, and likeness, yet Division 1 and 2 get free scholarships, and Division 3 don't. So if I'm a Division 3 athlete, I'm going to use my name, image, and likeness to get money to pay what would have been my scholarship to go to school. But if I'm Division 1 and 2, that's all free money because my scholarship's already paid for. So Division 3 is never going to be treated fairly, even if they make the money, because they're making money trying to break even. Where if I'm a Division 1 Syracuse basketball player and Fusillo decides to give me money, guess what? That's all gravy to me. But if I'm a Division 3 Marywood University athlete and I go to a Nissan dealership and they give me money, I'm just looking to pay for what I have to do to go to school because I'm an athlete, but I don't make any money to go.
Right.
So, I think Division 3 in and of itself is kind of an anomaly because how does it make sense that I'm an NCAA athlete, but I don't have the right to a scholarship if I'm a D3 athlete?
Well, I think it should be 1, 2, 3, but obviously it should be an even board.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen because those smaller schools, they really can't afford.
Right. When they talk about fairness, it's not fair.
I'll give you fairness in just Division 1. I think it's unfair. State schools
Yeah.
and private schools are all in Division 1.
Yeah.
Syracuse can't compete with Penn State money-wise,
Yeah.
even if their program sucked. Pittsburgh is a private school; they can't compete. It's not a fair playing surface.
No.
Pittsburgh, obviously, the state of Pennsylvania gives Pittsburgh money for kids who go to school, but
Right.
not to the program where you would be at Penn State.
Right.
And it's always been that way. And
Right.
that to me is not fair either.
Well, you look at Florida State, and what they can bring in, what a state school can bring in versus a private school. Like you said, a private institution versus state institution. So,
The state school bring a lot more to the table.
right. So, within all of this, there's a lot of questions. State versus private, NCAA Division 1 and 2 scholarships, Division 3 doesn't have them. Not treating all schools equally. All of these things are going on without there even being name, image, and likeness and all this other stuff. So let's discuss name, image, and likeness. You're a player, I'm a player. You're a quarterback, I'm a quarterback. Open competition, we're both true freshmen. We come on to Syracuse, and we're both throwing passes in practice, and we don't know who the starter is going to be. And I get a Honda dealership, and you get a Ford dealership, right? Ford says, I'm backing Al Romano to be the quarterback. I'm going to give you 10 grand this season for name, image, and likeness. Honda backs me and gives me 10 grand and says, I think he's going to be the quarterback. We're going with Dan Tortora. What happens if I win the job? Does Ford come to you and say, I want my money back? Does Ford go to the school and say, you better play this guy? And do they push Dino Babers to sit me and start you because Ford's like, listen, I spent 10 grand and I'm spending 10 grand on a backup quarterback?
Well, I think I'm naive and pray that it's nothing like you think. But you're probably got a point.
I'm a businessman, so I know.
It all, like anything, you follow the money.
Yeah.
And that would be horrible. And I don't think that happens. I think you're going to play the better player.
Right.
But I mean, if you're on the fence about the player, yes, it could make a difference.
What if Ford backs you and I end up starting, and then Ford says, I want to give him the money because I want to give the money to the starter?
Right.
So now, do you and I fight in practice? Are we beating each other up in the locker room?
Well,
What's happening?
I'm going to try harder.
Yeah. But you know what I mean? And then the other thing that I think it was the A-Sun commissioner brought up on my show, because I've been able to talk to a lot of the commissioners around the country, and this thing that I'm doing in this commissioner corner, where I'm really trying to get a hold of all of the D1 commissioners and get a sense for what they're thinking. So we've had the Ivy League, we've had the American, we've had the Patriot League, the Big South, the Big West, the A-Sun, and so on and so forth. And being able to talk with these commissioners, one of them brought up the fact of, he said, okay, what if the owner of Ford sits on the board at the school? So now, what if they're a booster? What if they sit on the board? So now, if they sit on the board of the school, are they pushing the chancellor to play that player? What if they back a wide receiver and they tell the wide receiver, every game you get 10 catches, we give you another $1,000? So what if they go to the school and say, hey, make sure he only gets 9 or less because we don't want to pay him the extra money? Or what if he's in the huddle telling the quarterback, what if I'm the receiver saying to you, hey, I only need one more catch to get a $1,500 bonus, so you got to throw to me in the end zone? All of these issues underlying, because these name, image, and likeness, when you get paid to play, these contracts can have in it just like A-Rod. If you hit more homers, we're going to give you more money.
And that does happen in the NFL.
Yeah. More sacks, more tackles for a loss.
When Dorsett got traded from Dallas to Denver, he had a contract that if he had 1,000 yards, it would have been $300,000 more.
Yeah.
The last 3 games, they didn't play him.
Yeah.
He was not injured. He won't even, if you talk to him, which you have,
Yeah.
he won't even bring up the acknowledgement that he played for Denver because they screwed him. That's a lot of money back in.
Yeah.
You see, he retired after I did, so he was in the middle 80s,
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff goes on. Now, this is what they're opening up the door for. You're exactly right. You hit the nail on the head.
You know, we're opening a door for them to have incentives. We're opening a door for them to go to the school and pressure the school to pressure them to play it. And then the other thing is, what are we going to do with the players? Will this school hire a central agent that will represent everyone on the team? Or will each player get to have their own agent? And when you bring agents, and here's the other thing. So you bring agents in, well, you're not allowed as an amateur athlete to work with an agent. So what does that do to the NBA? Because you can go to the NBA Combine and you can talk to teams, but if you don't hire an agent, you can take your name out of the draft, get the information, and come back. If we have name, image, and likeness and you can hire agents, then can you come back still? Because if you have an agent all the time, then what does it mean for the NBA when they have the agent rule that if you hire an agent, you can't come back to school? All of these things are going to really, truly affect the teams. And if I'm in a locker room and I'm the starting point guard and my center's telling me, if I get 10 and 10 a game, I'm going to be in good shape, and he's my best friend, and he tells me, hey, you know what? I average a double-double a game. You make sure to pass to me. I'll do the work. I get a double-double. They promise me at this restaurant that they're going to give me an extra 10 grand. I'll give you 2. So now I'm making money.
You really thought this out.
I have. Because you have to understand the lasagna that they have put on the plate of every single player now, and this lasagna is going to be pretty crazy.
I don't think, well, who knows? You're right. The door's been open. And
Pandora's box has never been a good thing.
No, and it's open.
Right.
That's why I hope there are better leaders in the NCAA than I'm seeing now.
Right, and knowing how corrupt the NCAA is now, how can we expect them?
I still want to go back to. Let's go back.
What do you want to go back
to? There's maybe 100 people tops.
Yeah.
On all these committees and everything they'd have to answer to the head of the
right, to Mark Emmer, right.
To Mark. Now.
And they're made up from the schools too.
Right.
Yeah.
We're talking $1 billion.
Yep. Where's the money? Where's the money? How much does Mark get?
Yeah, right.
How much does the guy get that carries his clubs on the golf course?
Why don't we know that? We can find out what the head of GM makes. We can find out what the head of Ford makes.
Right.
But why is it that we cannot find out what this guy does?
But the NCAA will tell you, well, it's a big operation to rent out the arenas for the NCAA tournament, and we got to turn the lights on here, and we got to do this and that. So they'll tell you that it costs a lot of money to rent space. That's what they'll tell you.
It does that in high school, too, to rent the lights.
Right. Does it cost $1 billion to rent it? No. Right. And these stadiums make money, too. You go to Camping World Stadium, the NCAA says, well, we got 41 bowls, and we got to worry about them all. Camping World is getting, that stadium, that arena is getting paid by Camping World for the naming rights. And they're obviously going to get paid the tickets that come in there and the sponsors that they have that they utilize for the arena. So when you break it all down and the NCAA says, hey, it costs us a lot of money to turn the lights on, I don't know if I think so. I don't know if I think that. When all these subsidies are paying for stuff, then, does it really cost you? Is it 10 cents on the dollar to turn the lights on? I don't know.
I was coming in here loving my college career, loving playing in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm not liking it so much anymore.
Well, you played when there was college, amateur, right? And there was professional, which make money.
Yeah.
And now, and this is the thing, and players will say this to me, well, Dan, are you against me making money when the NCAA makes all this money off my back? No, I don't think it's fair that the NCAA makes money off of a jersey that has number
My
2
number on it.
Right.
I agree.
John Wallace, you got a 44 jersey, and while John's playing, let's say Syracuse University sells 15,000 44 jerseys, and we all know it's John Wallace, but he doesn't make a dime. So I can understand that. But once you open the door to paying athletes, it's the quarter, like I said, quarterback versus quarterback, a running back saying, hey, don't throw the ball, run the ball. I need 15 carries a game.
I didn't get, per se, paid. They gave us what they called a per diem.
Right, a stipend.
Right, stipend, yes.
Yeah.
For our laundry.
For food. But you can use it on whatever you want.
Whatever we want.
Because some of the guys have told me, they're like, hey, some of us are eating, and then some of us, they said one of the guys, every time he got a stipend, he spent it on sneakers, and then he's like, I don't have anything to eat. I don't have any money to eat. And he's like, well, that's your fault. Yeah. And some of the guys, families.
It's not their fault. They feed them anyway.
Well, yeah. And then the other issue is some of these guys, the money that they get for a stipend, they send it home because their family lives in a horrible neighborhood. So there are guys that say, okay, you know what? Syracuse gave me a stipend, and I don't buy shoes, I don't buy clothes, I don't buy anything. I literally send it home to my mom to take care of my 3 brothers, which is a beautiful story and also a sad story. So
what is it now?
The stipend?
On average.
I think it's different. I would have to give you the exact number on what the autonomy group has.
Well, I want to tell you what mine was.
Because the full cost of attendance is what the autonomy group works with now and all that stuff. As opposed to like other schools. Now the American or any other school, a conference or a school can give full cost of attendance if they want to, but the autonomy group has agreed that they will.
Right.
So
I don't think they had a choice.
So you're making money now. If I'm going to Syracuse, I'm making something.
Right.
But if I have a name, image, and likeness, and I want to work with a dealership and a restaurant and a law office, if I'm, let's say, Josh Huff is coming into Syracuse, right? So Josh Huff, big burly back, could be a power back for the first time in a long time for Syracuse. They haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2012. So you bring in this guy almost a decade later, and let's say Josh Huff, they love him. First 2 games in, he's doing fantastic, 100-something yards a game, 5.3 yards a carry, couple touchdowns each game. And let's say Ford, let's say Pizza Man, let's say one of the law offices here, they all sign on. Josh Huff, 3 games into the season, could be making $100,000 as an 18-year-old.
Well, yeah.
Then they can argue it the other way and say, well, now there's no point in going pro, and maybe you'll have more guys stay 4 years in college because they're not going to go to the NBA.
What are the rules now?
The rules now you can't.
If they catch me making money off of even my own name, and it's went through the courts.
If you make any money right now, then you're supposed to get in trouble. But we know Syracuse did and North Carolina did. We know the rules are different for different places, Kentucky and whatever. But what it's supposed to be is, if I'm a business owner, you're playing at Pittsburgh, and I say, Al, great game, and I slap your hand and I got $1,000 in that, and somebody finds that out in the NCAA, Pittsburgh pays a penalty, and
they're not even involved, or they could be in another state.
But the school has to pay a penalty for you. Right. So that's what's supposed to happen. You're not supposed to make any money. There was a kicker who had a YouTube channel, and he was making money off his YouTube channel, and the NCAA ruled that he can't make money, and it had nothing to do with the sport. So he just had a YouTube channel saying, hey, I want to make some money on the side. So what if I'm a musician? And what if I'm a kicker at Syracuse, and on the side I play saxophone? Why can't I make money playing saxophone? Because as long as I'm an NCAA athlete, as the rule stands right now, as long as I'm an NCAA athlete, I cannot make money doing literally anything.
Right.
Saxophone, picking up garbage, doesn't matter. I can't work here. So how does that make any sense? So now they're doing the exact opposite, saying you can make all the money in the world, and what that's going to do is, I'm telling you, it's going to cause infighting with players. There's guys going to be fighting in the locker room. Schools are going to be fighting because the basketball players are going to make more than the football players. Then the Olympic sports are what if they make nothing? What if they say to the soccer team, I don't want to, what if Ford says to a soccer player at Syracuse, I'll give you $1,000 a season, but to Tommy DeVito at Syracuse football, he gives him $10,000. So now you got everybody. So now you got all of the sports on campus hating each other. Then you have teammates hating each other, and coaches having to corral that. And you got chancellors having boosters, and people on the board coming up to them going, "Hey, here's another $1,000. Make sure you play that guy this week." You don't even. This is what I'm going to say to you. It's an easy way to say it. Syracuse will never have to play another team again, because all the sports will beat up each other, and the players will beat up each other in the locker room. You will never have to face anybody else but Syracuse.
Right. Well, did you get up on the wrong side of the bed today?
No, I have to ask the questions, because why is nobody checking this stuff?
Yeah, well, they are, but they don't give a shit. Obviously, they're checking it.
Right.
Like we got the stipend, all right? And
Yeah.
yes, I'm not going to lie. Alumni threw me a bone here and there. And then, I'll give you, for instance, Tony Dorsett comes into Pittsburgh. He's got a used Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
He makes All-American as a junior, right? Second leading in the country, leading rusher.
Yeah.
Next to Archie Griffin. Okay? That year he had a Lincoln.
Yeah.
I ain't get no freaking Lincoln.
Yeah.
I was kind of I was the leader of the D, and Tony was the guy on the offense.
Right.
And we would go to banquets and do this, the whole circuit thing, and it was fun. And I saw some of the envelopes Tony was getting.
Yeah.
I was happy with my $10, but it's always going to happen. But
Right.
you can't let it get to the point where that was incredible. That Tony, his senior year, he's driving me to practice in a Lincoln.
Yeah.
I go, what the hell? This is crazy. I'm loving it because I was in the car.
Yeah. But you can't. There's no way you can police all this.
There's no way.
And here's the other thing too. Alabama right now recruits better than anybody, right? But name, image, and likeness. Let's look at regions of the country. So does USC get a leg up on Alabama? Because do I want to go to Mobile, Alabama, or do I want to go
Los Angeles?
Do I want to go to Los Angeles? Okay, so now all of a sudden, certain places get more enticing. Can Clemson, South Carolina, hang with Miami, Florida, or Orlando, Florida? So now if I'm UCF and I say, hey, we got 40 more dealerships than Clemson, why don't you come here? Come to Orlando, come to the amusement parks. What if Disney starts throwing a bone to some of these guys? And if the guys, when they win a championship, they go over to Walt Disney World and they take a few pictures with Mickey and do this, that, and the other, then why not? You know what I mean? It's like, it could end up leveling off the playing field, and piss off the Alabamas and the Clemsons of the world. Because if you're in like a little town, if you're in Boise, Idaho, you might have 10 businesses that can afford giving somebody 50 grand.
50 grand.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you're in Charlotte, North Carolina, a booming city that's growing, or you're in Houston, Texas, and I got 100 businesses that can give you 50 grand, then why don't I be a Houston Cougar instead of going to Alabama? Why don't I be, it's like you look at these places that have the money, and that's another thing to look at. What if, you look at where Penn State is sitting, in State College, as opposed to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania's got, I would imagine, more money, more businesses than State College. So, yeah, Penn State might have more money, but if I'm choosing between Penn State and Pitt has more businesses, and they can handle more of us players, then I might choose Pitt over Penn State because I got more money and more name, image, and likeness opportunity.
We know right now that's not happening.
Right.
Because Pitt's not holding their own against Penn State recruiting.
Right.
And it's still an amateur event.
Yeah.
And
SMU stands to gain. I'm in Dallas, Texas. I can make a lot of money.
If it gets to that point, I'll never watch another college game. I think that these guys give their all. Yes, they need supplement.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys come from, South Miami or Mississippi and areas that, they don't have the money that, you would out of a city like Los Angeles.
Right.
But it's got to be.
If I'm an independent contractor and I can make any amount of money that I want, that's a danger zone. And again, as an agent representing me, and we all know that there's no agents that are crooked, right? Not a single one, not a crooked agent in the world. So how do you police who the agents can be? And how do you keep an agent out? And here's the other thing. If schools have been getting in trouble for having agents and shaking hands and having envelopes and $1,000, this isn't retroactive. So if I'm playing today and I can have an agent and I can make money, but if you came out and you just stopped playing for Pitt and you said, hey, somebody gave me a ton of money and they can get, the Committee on Infractions ends up suspending their football program and giving them the death penalty, but then nowadays they can't. That's the other thing to look at is all of these things that were taboo on a college campus with name, image, and likeness, that all goes away, which means that the Committee on Infractions and all the punishments they've handed out are null and void, which means, do you give Jim Boeheim his 101 wins back?
Right. Well, all I can say is, maybe I'm, again, naive, but I don't think it will get to that point. But the only way they're going to overcome this is, yes, you're going to go to the university and you're going to find them and you're going to do it the same way you are now. But now, that kid is out of college football at any level. Maybe junior college or something.
Right. But if he can get name, image, and likeness rights.
I would be a little apprehensive in trying to deal with one of these guys who want to give me $500 or $1,000.
Right.
Because do you think the NFL team is going to? And look, you hear the numbers coming out of this. They're insane. The guy, a right tackle for Tennessee Titans, just saying 100 and something. It's insane.
Well, it's in everything. There's the point guard of the Los Angeles Lakers right now, who wasn't a household name last year or 2 years ago. He allegedly turned down a 4-year, $84 million deal because he wants at least $100 million. Yeah. I'll take the 84.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But that's pro.
Right. Well, the point is that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
We're splitting hairs. Yeah, it's pro at $100 million.
Right.
At college, it's
you're not supposed to make anything.
Maybe a couple $100,000. You take that athlete out of the equation, these other guys are going, hey man.
Yeah. But if name, image, and likeness continues to go through, I feel like I can make
the big leagues.
Right.
I'm not going to do this.
Yeah, but it's not going to matter. If name, image, and likeness goes through, then you can never police it again because, the shaking hands and giving money, it doesn't matter anymore. The guy can say, oh, yeah, it's for a business that I own.
No.
So that brings us to recruiting. Knowing that recruiting can now have all of this stuff in it, name, image, and likeness, transferring, all that stuff, what are your thoughts to a recruit out there of any sport? What are your words of advice to a recruit? What would you say to if someone was getting recruited in football right now and they were sitting here at Pizza Man Pub on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville? What words of advice would you say?
Well, I'm gonna sound corny, but because I couldn't graduate on time, it meant a lot to me. I would say to them, look at man, you're not going to graduate on time, accept the fact, because it's not possible when you're in a Division I program, you do not have the time for college that these other students have.
Yeah.
It's a severe disadvantage.
Right.
Number one. But number two, I would honestly have to tell them that if you're in a program that you feel you're going to be a little fish in a big pond,
Yeah.
I would try to find the little pond and be the big fish.
Okay. Try to find the little pond and be the big fish. That would be...
And every one of these kids
Yeah.
are going to go through that. They're going to find a D2 school that wants them, and they're going heavily after them.
Yeah.
These big schools don't want you now anyway. They have built a program that can fit you in 2003, maybe 2004. That's how it works.
Yeah.
These kids go in there thinking they're going to play in 1 year. It ain't happening in these major programs.
Yeah.
Now, when you got a program that's somewhat floundering, yes, you could be playing this first year, but it's usually unlikely.
But if you have Alabama like we've had recently, right, where Alabama had Mac Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jalen Hurts, if you take out the transfer, if you have no rules in transfer, and after this year you could transfer at any time with no restrictions at all and play right away, then what's to say that at least two of those three guys didn't leave Alabama? I mean, Jalen ended up leaving Alabama, but what's to say he didn't do it sooner? And what's to say that Mac Jones never stayed to take over because he had Tua and Jalen ahead of him? So what if Mac went to Tennessee in his first year? If there's no restriction and I go there for a year or two and I'm not playing in Clemson and I'm behind Trevor Lawrence, then DJ Uwangalale, I would have just left. I would have left.
Yeah. Well, you have the prerogative. The problem when you just leave, correct me.
Yeah.
I don't read up on this as you do. If you just walk out of a university,
Yeah. But you have to get cleared. Yeah.
right?
To leave.
Yes, you have to get cleared.
Yeah.
You leave. You come back 2 years later. You still may have to sit out a year.
If I come back to the same school?
No, any Division I school that you.
Yeah. So if I leave Syracuse and I go to Pittsburgh, right?
Not your first year. You're in other words, you just don't. You're out of college football
So I leave college football completely.
completely for a year or so.
Okay. And I come back?
You come back. I think you still have to sit, and you could be 23 or by that time.
Yeah.
24.
Yeah. I
don't
mean,
know.
as it stands right now, you don't have to sit for any reason. So
Oh, is that how it is?
if they keep it, then that's where we're at. Speaking here with Al Romano, Off the Rails with Al, myself, Dan Tortora. This is a product of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of Pizza Man Pub, 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville, New York. We talked about our three main points here, so I want to go off the rails a little bit before we finish up here. And we did this before. It's called Rapid Fire. You can ask me anything about sports or about life, literally any question in the world. I'm going to give you three, and I'm going to have three. And we're going to do this rapid fire off the rails with Al. I'll let you have the first question. You can ask me literally anything, and we're live on Facebook.com/LiveNowDT or live to the people at Pizza Man. We have to answer the questions asked of us. You can ask the first one.
If you weren't doing this,
Yeah.
I like how you think when it comes to. You're on the dark side of some of this, and I'm loving it.
Not the dark. I have to be honest.
Well, there is a dark side, and
I have to be real with it.
I'm trying to be the naive guy on the right side, thinking that guys like you don't exist. But
Well, guys like me, I'm saying I'm saying that the NCAA needs to watch
Oh,
this.
no, I agree.
I'm a purist. I want to see amateur sports, and I want to see these kids protected, and I want to see coaches and players protected, and schools.
What do you think is a fair? The players need to be paid. I hate saying it. When this first started happening,
Yeah.
I thought I was going to cut my own arm off.
Right.
But they need to be paid because you've got a lot of people. Otherwise, they just can't live their life normally.
Yeah, so you're saying college players need to make something.
What dollar figure, and they would be mandatory. This is all you get from this university while you're here.
You know?
Let me help.
Yeah.
When I was going there,
So you're saying no name, image, and likeness, no free agent, no they can go out and get their own business. You're saying the school pays them.
Right.
Okay.
The school
right.
gives each player the exact amount.
I don't think that they can because certain schools with their boosters can afford a lot more money, and then certain cities can afford more
Nothing
money.
to do with boosters. This is going to be an NCAA,
All right.
a school cost.
But Idaho and Wyoming can't pay Syracuse, and Syracuse can't pay Alabama's.
Right.
So I feel like it would be hard to find a median.
It's a cost of living.
Okay.
Unfortunately, cost of living in LA and New York City are greater than the
Right.
cost in
So you're saying it can be different if I'm at St. John's in Jamaica, New York, as opposed to Syracuse, New York?
No.
Okay. So, I mean, I would think that they just have to figure out a cost of living and figure out a percentage for that area. But then that also creates an uneven playing field because then maybe I go to St. John's because my cost of living is up, but they're going to give me more money. So
No, we don't want to get into that. We're going to give, I don't care if you're in LA or if you're, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're in LA or you're in Syracuse.
okay, so you just think a stipend for
Across
everybody.
the board,
Okay.
a stipend that you would feel would cover. Obviously, the guy in Mississippi State
Yeah.
is going to have more money to spend because the cost of living is.
Right.
I've been
Right,
down
South
there.
Carolina is going to have, between Syracuse and South Carolina is going to have better, they're going to have more money because the cost of living is lower.
I think it would have to be a fixed amount
Okay.
that is fair to all. It's very difficult to do because just to go out, I think the McDonald's in LA is a hell of a lot more expensive than the McDonald's in,
Yeah, the rent for it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, a house selling, a 5-bedroom house up here that might cost $500,000 is $100,000 in South Carolina. So, you know, I would
But it
say
would have to be
a fixed amount.
Well, it's the only way they can register. It's the only way they can find out if this.
So even the playing field saying if you go to Wyoming, you make $1,000 a week. If you go to Alabama, you make $1,000 a week. If you go to Syracuse, you make $1,000 a week. No name, image, and likeness. We're going to give you all a stipend.
Exactly.
A stipend, and so every conference is going to have the same stipend.
Yes.
But then it's going to put the onus on the institution because some schools are not going to be able to afford it.
I don't think so.
Who's going to pay them? The NCAA or the school? The school.
The school.
Okay. I mean, I
Or-
think it's got to be a percentage.
You have a point. You have a point.
Yeah, if it's a non-for-profit, then what do you need the money for?
What do these universities pay on average? Again, it goes per capita.
Yeah.
What do they have to give the NCAA every year?
Sort of like to be in the buy. So then, yeah, so we would have to look up what that is,
Right.
get that number, and break it down. But I think the argument that they're all going to say is all 50 states and the cities within the states are going to say our cost of living is different, we can't afford it.
Well, when I was in college, all we got was that same amount. The Ohio State guys got that amount
Okay.
because we played them, and
So you went up to Ohio State and said, how much do you get on a stipend? And they said 400 and you got 400.
Right.
So it was the same.
right.
So they would have to make it the same. And then I would say what? What do you need for a week?
So no.
So
think
eat food
about-
and all that
think
stuff.
about-
So you give them a
think
few
about-
$100.
Think about this would do. It would keep the guys who maybe wanted to go USC or UCLA maybe going to a smaller venue.
Right. There's no competitive advantage. Now you're
Right.
just going for coaching.
You're just going for coaching
Right.
and
Right.
alumni.
Because it's kind of like Syracuse. The buyout here for Dino Babers is far lower than Alabama because Alabama can pay that money.
Yeah.
One booster can hand you $60 million and say, have a great day.
The boosters have to get more involved in Syracuse than Alabama.
Right. So I would say a few $100 a month, or I would say maybe $1,000 to $2,000 a month. It breaks down to like $500 a week, and that would be the stipend. But it'll never happen because name, image, and likeness is far along.
How else you keep it?
How do you keep it even?
How do you keep it even?
Right. You give everybody the same amount of money.
You got some of these.
Then it's just down to coaching, and it's God forbid it's down to coaching and how you feel at the university.
Gee, what's wrong with that? That's why I went to Pittsburgh.
Falling in love with a city, falling in love with a town, falling in love with a coach. That's what it would be about. It wouldn't be like, oh, I don't really like this coach, but I'm going to make $3,000 more. So.
Right. So it would have to be that way no matter what market you're in.
Yeah.
And the big markets are still going to get. They're still going to get but the guy who's in it for the love of the sport is going to play who wants to play.
Right. So my question for you is, if you were the president of the NCAA, what would you do with name, image, and likeness? Would you approve it or would you deny it?
Well, I'm going to give you a little story.
Okay.
A book just came out in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I'm on the cover with Tony Dorsett. And it was the decade of, in other words, at that 10-year period from 72 to 82 or whatever.
Yeah.
Pittsburgh was the prominent team. We were the least amount of losses and the most amount of wins.
Okay.
And that's the Dorsett era, the Marino era, and I didn't get a dime for that book.
Yeah.
But I'm happy I'm even involved here. I'm happy my name is on the cover. I didn't get anything.
Yeah.
I maybe I'm old school, but I played college football for the love of the game.
Yeah.
Now, when I got in the pros, I didn't like it.
Yeah.
There wasn't that camaraderie that, you really don't hang around with anybody. But very few times you hang around with the other guy.
It's a business.
He's got a job and kids, and he's got kids on the west side of town. I'm living on the east side.
Yeah. But if you do that with high school and you make it a business, then it's not going to be a team in high school. So then it's really only going to be a team, in college. So then it's really only going to be a team in high school. If college if they can make money for name, image, and likeness, and everybody's their own business, then the only place we'll ever see amateur sports is from youth, like pee-wee, little league stuff, to high school.
Think about it. Tony Dorsett's son, was he going anywhere else, no matter how much money?
Right.
Okay. That's what you have to rely on. You have to rely on the fact that I am an alumni, I'm a proud alumni, and I'm honored to be an alumni, and I'm going to support it. So you're gonna lose with a blue chipper now and then.
Yeah.
But I think overall, if you just make it, like you said, everybody's going to get $1,000 a month.
So if you were the president of the NCAA, would you approve name, image, and likeness? Would you let every player be their own business?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So you're for the stipend. You're not for you can make whatever you want.
Well, that's one of the reasons you have. Obviously, the jersey that sold most in Pittsburgh for many years was Dorsett.
Right.
And then Dan Marino came along.
Right.
His overtook
They never
Dorsett's.
made any money off of that.
Yeah, well, no, I did. They didn't.
Right.
I mean, they had my jersey in the bookstore store too. I mean, they didn't buy it like they did Dorsett's, but a defensive player would have loved to.
Yeah.
I mean, there's guys that come up here. One of Jimmy's best friends comes all the way up here and parties up here. He wears my jersey with 91 on.
Yeah.
I love the guy, but it's not that often that you're going to be want to buy. I'll give you one. You don't have to buy my jersey.
Yeah. What's your second question for me?
Well,
Could be about anything.
if you had the physical stature and a lot of it, I notice now that a lot of these guys, a lot of these guys have the physical attributes,
Yeah.
But they don't have they just don't have it up here to realize that if they worked at this a little more or that a little more.
Yeah.
What would you want if you could change? You only have the choice of one.
Okay.
Your physical stature, you want to be 6'5", 315?
Yeah.
You want a 4'2"?
Okay.
Or you want to have the mental capacity that you don't need that height and speed to do what you want to do.
I feel like I have that mental capacity.
Yeah, there you go. So you made your decision.
Yeah. God made me 5'8", and I work at what is in my control.
Right.
And so my ability to, which comes from God, but my ability to learn the talents that He's given me, I hone those talents. I am 5'8", but I can shoot anywhere on the court. I got recruited D3 by Marywood University, and I was proud of that. I was proud to get that one phone call.
Right.
And I'm okay with that. Now shooting threes the way I shot threes, if I ran more and if I did more cardio and then had the God-given talent and all the work ethic that I had to shoot threes, if I had the God-given talent, which I do, and I had the work ethic of shooting those threes and shooting free throws and taking that time, which I do, and then I worked out a little bit more and I was 6'2", I probably could have played D1.
No, most certainly.
So that's something that, but I'm okay with that. But yeah, I mean, I think brains over brawn every day.
Yep. Well, when I got to the NFL, they changed me from a D lineman to a linebacker. I had the height. I was actually taller than most of the linebackers, but I was smaller.
Yeah. What did you weigh when you went to the NFL?
240.
Okay.
I was a D lineman in college.
Right. And in the NFL, you got to be close to 3.
So I made a habit of getting into the.
So were you a hybrid? Were you still going after the quarterback at linebacker? They have you play on the outside?
Yeah. Well, what happened was they knew I knew I was a student of the game. I loved it. I would love when I was in college. I would love watching the films.
Yeah.
Because I'm a nose guy. And I knew I needed advantage. I'm 230 pounds, 240. This guy, the guard, between the guard and the tackle and the other guard, there's 500 and something pounds.
Yeah.
So I would watch, and I would see the right guard. I found that little quirk. I found that he dips his shoulder, or he puts 2 fingers down instead of 3 fingers down. I studied all that. That's
what made you better.
It had to, because I was undersized.
Yeah.
I would have never made All-American at Pittsburgh against these guys.
What's the difference when he had 3 or 2? What did it do? What did you see?
3 down, he's coming at you, and it's a run play for the most part.
2 down.
2 down, he's more up on his heels.
Okay.
Pass protection.
Okay. So you studied the intricate, tiny most details of the game to have a competitive advantage over guys that could be 100 pounds heavier than you are.
And they were.
And you became an All-American and a national champion, so I think you figured it out.
A little, with some blessings,
Yeah. My second question for you, I'm going to go off of sports. You can pick 3 movies to watch for the rest of your life on repeat. Only 3. What movies do you watch?
Groundhog Day.
Which is funny because you have to watch it every day.
Yeah, right.
All right. Okay.
I'm a unbelievable lover of The Godfather.
Okay. I figured you were going to say that.
Well, not because of my heritage. It's because I thought it was good. Although,
Listen, if we end in a vow, I was in a procession today for a funeral, and I said to myself, the only time that you don't break a line, besides like the president going by, the only time you don't break a line is if it's a funeral procession or if the mob's coming through town. You don't break that line.
I heard that at 5 years old.
Yeah. So The Godfather, Groundhog Day, and what else?
I love movies, so I watch a lot of them.
Okay.
You know what? And during this COVID, I watched more movies than I have in 1 year than I had in 25 years.
Yeah. I watched all of Game of Thrones. all 8 seasons.
Yes.
I watched it all in 3 months.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
As far as movies go, not TV shows, I would say, what's that one? Sweet Home Alabama.
Okay.
Because my wife loves it. That's one of the only movies we watch together.
Like Sweet Home Alabama with Reese Witherspoon?
Yeah, right.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. I like your answers. They're all over the place. I appreciate them. What's your last one for me? Off the Rails with Ale, product of Wake Up Call, Onsite at Pizza Man Pub.
Well, other than basketball, what sport would it have been that you would have wanted to excel in?
I would say football at any time in my life, but being Hispanic and Italian, I don't know why the heck I never played soccer.
That's true.
I don't know why. And the funniest thing in the world is my cousins played, and on my dad's side, and I was messing around. She kicked me a soccer ball in the street, and I'm messing around with it, and I'm touching it with my feet, and I put my foot up on it and this, and I was like, is this like an innate thing? Was I born this way? And then I coached soccer, and I'm thinking in my head, 5'8", if I had put my body into soccer, God knows how far I could have gone, because it doesn't matter how tall you are on a soccer field.
Yeah, you're the perfect size.
I would have been great.
Yeah.
Could have been great.
Could have been. Could have
And
been.
now Italy and Spain, shout out to them in the Euros, as they've made it to the final 8 at the time we're talking. No matter what, if Italy and Spain wins a championship in soccer, I'm always happy.
Is that awesome, though?
But Italy, they took the goal away, then they go to extra time, and they have 10 minutes plus of stoppage time, and they score a goal when the guy switches feet, and then in stoppage time, they score a second one for Italy, and I'm looking at it, it's 100 minutes, I'm like, can you blow the whistle now? Can we go home today? And then Spain wins 5-3, so we're okay. And then penalty kicks, France loses to Switzerland. Crazy. So now, I guess a lot of people are hoping that Italy will do it. As long as Italy won in 06 a World Cup, then Spain won a Euro on opposite ends. They won like a sandwich. They won a Euro, a World Cup in 2010, and a Euro. So as long as Italy and Spain win, I'm a happy guy.
You can't lose.
My last question for you is, if you got to meet Ray Romano of Everybody Loves Raymond, and you got to go on tour with him, what would your comedy routine be about? What do you think you would be funniest talking about?
I love that guy.
Ray Romano?
Yeah, well, he's the poor one,
Ray?
Yeah, next to me. No.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right. That's all right. He could be.
No,
we don't know.
No, oh my God, are you crazy? I always wish that I had met him. I met, when I was doing the
He's a big sports guy.
Yeah, I know it, but I did the sports thing, the All-American team throughout the whole country, and I met Tony Soprano. I met all the wife, the daughter, and I always wanted to meet him.
We gotta get you around Ray Romano.
I'd love it.
We gotta make that work. Romano Brothers back again.
Yeah, but see, do you ever watch it?
I love the show. Okay, I'm gonna paint you a picture. My mom, and I can say this on air because everybody that knows my family knows this. My mom and my dad's mother, my grandma and my grandmother hated my mom and my mom hated my grandmother. Her name was Mary. In the TV show, it's Marie. She lived down the road. Marie lives across the street. The name of Ray's wife is Deborah. My mom's name is Deborah. So when we watched Everybody Loves Raymond, it got too real sometimes, and my mom and I would laugh hysterically at stuff that the mother-in-law would do to her. And my dad would laugh and stop, because it was his mom, and he would go, "That's not that funny." And I'm like, "Yeah, it is that funny."
So who are you?
I'm the kid. I mean, the kids never grew up on the show, so I don't know who I would be. I'm not sure. And my dad was the prodigal son, and so was Ray Romano. So it was very much a story about my family's life at times.
Yeah.
But my dad didn't have a brother, so.
I was watching it the other night, and his wife and his relationship with his is so like mine and my wife.
Oh yeah?
She gets
Ray and Deborah?
She gets flared up on something, and I'll just say something stupid, and she's got to laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great show to watch. Because
it's funny, I never watched it when it was like in the beginning.
You didn't?
It was toward the end I started watching it.
Does it make you feel like 100 years old? Because I'm only 35, and you watch Nick at Night, and it's like Ray Romano, and I'm like, well, how is this Nick at Night? I grew up on Mr. Ed, Dick Van Dyke, I Love Lucy. They were all black and white.
Mr. Ed.
Mr. Ed.
What is Mr.? Oh, what
The talking horse.
Get the.
I woke up on that. I grew up on that. Lassie. And now they show George Lopez and Ray Romano, and I'm supposed to feel like 115 years old. It's horrible. If it's not black and white, it's not Nick at Night. That's what I think it should be. That's the tagline. It rhymes. If it's not black and white, it's not Nick at Night. Dick Van Dyke, bring it back. The Andy Griffin Show.
Oh yeah, they're showing the Steelers and the Oilers with the oil thing out there. That was the helmet that I wore.
Yeah. You wore that. You wore the Houston Oiler helmet.
Houston Oiler helmet.
The Warren Moon helmet.
Yeah. I have those stickers. I don't know what to do with them.
I'll take them.
Mix
them over.
They were huge.
Yeah. I'll put them up.
Like,
I'm a nostalgic guy. I'll put them in the studio.
When my son was like, I don't know, 5 or 6 years old, he stuck one on the mirror. All right.
I can tell you what I did to mine. There's in the house that I'm in. When the kid put a San Francisco 49er sticker on my mirror in my theater room with my bar and stuff. So I'm a Raptor fan. I bought Toronto Raptor championship stickers, and I put one over the 49er, and I put one on the other side, so it balanced it out. Because I couldn't take it off.
My son is crazy, and I don't understand. I was out in L.A. or wherever, and Jerry Rice was there.
Okay.
I don't know what we were doing. Anyway, I says, you know, my son's little, and he doesn't know 49ers from the Chicago Bears, right?
Right.
So he signed an autograph to Craig, you know.
Yeah.
Jerry Rice, right? He's a freaking fanatic 49er.
Now.
I'm going, Craig, you know what?
Still?
What about the Steelers? I don't give a shit about the Oilers because they hated being there.
Yeah.
But
he's a fan of the Niner stuff.
He goes down to Jammers, and you know, Jimmy Rinaldi's place there, Jammers. Yeah. He goes down there and watches all the games. And he wears his jersey and
yeah. So he wears the Niners stuff still.
Oh, he loves the Niners.
Trey Lance going to be their quarterback.
Yeah.
North Dakota State. Well, with that being said, Al Romano, national champion CNY native, myself also a CNY native, and I'm going to have to get an Al Romano jersey now that I know that he's giving them away. So. Off the Rails with Al, we come here. So throughout every single month, Wake Up Call is on site, on location at Pizza Man Pub. And Off the Rails with Al will be happening throughout the year at different times. To find out when and what time and all the good stuff, you got to go to Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. For now, Off the Rails with Al, a product of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Thank you, Al Romano. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Now we're doing this throughout the summer, right?
We'll be doing it again, yeah?
Okay. Well, I'm not up here all winter, so.
Okay. Yeah, you're a snowbird. Where are you going?
No, well, family down in Florida.
Okay. For you. I'll join you down in Florida as well. We'll talk with you all soon. Be good.